Hey, LMAO! Nice to meet you, Mr. Earthling. My name's Yuki Koyuki. Welcome back to Koyuki channel. I'm exhausted, can you tell? I'm looking forward to just, like, having a chill stream where we just read and we just chill. I, like, just got home from work. I'm currently eating a sandwich. Can you hear it? That wasn't, like, the crunchiest bite, but I made grilled cheese. And that's dinner, baby. Because I didn't have time to make anything else. It's really good. I got some, like, Italian sandwich bread. So, like, an Italian loaf, and they cut it into sandwich slices. It makes really good grilled cheese. Where'd you get that cheese, Danny? Who's Danny? I thought Danny was a cat. I'm Yuki. Danny's a cat. I'm eating a grilled cheese, so it can't be snarky right now. Mel does a good munch. I know, I hate that you can see me chewing. It's so obnoxious. But yeah. Yeah, I just got off of work. Just, you know, more of the same. Lots of rocks at the jewelry store today. Lots of rocks at the jewelry store today. So, you know, just had a busy day. So, I was like 5 seconds away from like rescheduling this to tomorrow because I'm so tired. So if we only read like half of the book today, that's not my fault. I can't wait for the final book to come out. Wayside School gets a little poop on it. Hi, Brennan. Hi, I'm Lagu. I'm glad we taught rocks to think so that I can have a PC. Right. Very, very good shit. Good shit. Ugh. Any lesbians at the rock store? Actually, I think I'm not the only queer person. I think I'm the only sapphic person, though. Because we have, like, a bisexual guy and a gay guy who work at the rock store. But I think I'm the only, I think I'm the only one, yeah. My cousin got me an ROG Ally X, and I'm learning how to use it. I don't know what that is, but congratulations. I hope you're having fun with it. Lesbians run the rock store. I mean, if it was, like, a normal rock store, like, you know, if we sold, like, Soda Light and quartz and stuff, absolutely lesbians would run that rock store. But I work at like a high-end jewelry store, so it's a Steam Deck type of thing. Oh, I see. Gotcha. So you can put like all sorts of different games and stuff on it. I'm eating yogurt. Yogurt. I had a yogurt while I was waiting for my my cheese to grill. I had a yogurt, and I took my meds with it, so you don't get any, Koyuki medication ASMR. I am starting the Nuzlocke. How many wedding rings do you sell a week? I don't work in the sales department. I work on the e-commerce department side, so I'm the one, like, they give me rocks, and they say, put these on the online store. The Eraserhead baby laughs at me. And then I put the rocks on the online store, and then I give them to our inventory manager, and he puts them in the safe. That's all I do. I don't track sales. I just make sure that they go on the online store, and that's my job. And, like, I get to handle pieces, and I get to see really cool pieces, but it's not my job to track sales. It's not my job to sell things. It's just my job to say, okay, what kind of rock is this? How is it cut? What's its setting? Etc., etc., etc. And then turn that into an online store listing. That's my job. which is a really cool job. It's really cool. I enjoy it. Anyway, you guys want to just get into it? Want to get into the third inaugural meeting of the Nostalgia Book Club? I'm taking that as a yes. I'm taking your riveting silence as a yes. God. I'm sorry, I'm trying to be Yuki today. I'm trying. Like, I think you can tell that, like, my energy is a little bit lower. But it's just, I had a long day, man. I had a long day. But I think just settling in and reading some story and hanging out with you guys will be nice. So, let's try and get through. I'm pretty sure there's 30 chapters in this book as well. Let's try and get through about half of them. And if we have to, we can stream again tomorrow, depending on how I feel. Rocks went and sucked your energy. Honestly, they do that. 'Cause, like, my job isn't the most riveting thing in the world. It's interesting, but it's not the most riveting thing in the world. It's very technical and very, like, detail-oriented, but not very exciting. Like, yeah, sometimes I'll get to see a huge-ass diamond, but after you've seen, like, 15 huge-ass diamonds, it's just, oh, okay. So that's X millimeters? That's X size? Okay, cool. Like, you start looking at it as all of the little specifications that you're looking for, instead of, whoa, this thing is worth, like, $5,000, you know? So. Yuki sees the biggest diamond ever. I fucking hate you. Honestly, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah. So, when we last left off Wayside School, we read Wayside School is Falling Down, which ended with the titular school not falling down, but instead being filled with cows. So now we're picking up exactly where the last book left off, or, according to the first sentence of chapter 1, 243 days after the last book left off. And we are just in it. We're just in it now. All right. We are on chapter 1, Explanation. For 243 days, a lonely sign hung on the front door of the old school building. On some days, a child would come, look at the sign, then sadly walk away. Or else a child would come, look at the sign, stand on her head, then sadly walk away. Lewis watched them come and go, but he never said hi to them. He hid when they came. It was his job to repair the school. Lewis used to be the yard teacher at Wayside School. He passed out the balls and played with the kids at recess and lunch. When the school closed, the children were sent to other schools. Horrible schools. No two kids were sent to the same school. Lewis was afraid he'd cry if he talked to them. But he worked hard. For 242 days, he pushed and pulled, shoveled and mopped. He never left the building. At night, he slept on the couch in the teacher's lounge on the 12th floor. Some days, it seemed hopeless. The worst part was the smell. He often had to run and stick his head out a window to get a breath of fresh air. But whenever he felt like quitting, he thought about those poor kids, stuck in those horrible schools, and he just worked harder. At last, 243 days later, the school was ready to open. Well, almost ready. Suddenly, from somewhere inside the building, or maybe just inside his head, Lewis heard a loud moo. He put his hands over his ears and said, "I don't hear it, I don't hear it, I don't hear it," until the mooing stopped. He had scrubbed and polished every inch of Wayside School. There were no cows anywhere, he was sure of it. Still, Every once in a while, he heard something go, moo. Or at least, he thought he did. He took the sign off the door. But before you enter, you should know something about Wayside School. Wayside School is a 30-story building with one room on each floor, except there is no 19th story. Mrs. Jules teaches the class on the 30th story. Miss Zarves teaches the class on the 19th story. There is no Miss Zarves. Understand? Good. Explain it to me. Louis! Someone shouted. He turned to see a red and blue overcoat running toward him. Hi, Shari, he said. He couldn't see her face, but he knew she had to be somewhere inside the coat. Shari jumped into his arms. I bet you're glad to be back, said Louis. You bet, said Shari. Now I can finally get some sleep. All around the playground, old friends were getting back together. Hi, old pal, said John. Hey, good buddy, said Joe. BB! Yelled Calvin from one side of the playground. Calvin! Shouted BB from the other. They ran and smashed into each other. Hi, Eric. Good to see you, said Eric. Hey, good to see you too, said Eric. Oh, look, there's Eric. Hi, Eric. Hi, Eric. Hi, Eric. Hi, Eric. Even Kathy said hello to everyone. Hey, big ears, she said to Myron as she slapped him on the back. What's happening, smelly? She asked Damien. You didn't take a bath for 243 days, did you? Hi, Allison. Did you get uglier while you were away? Or were you always this ugly and I just forgot? That's a nice sweater, Kathy, said Allison, who always tried to say something nice. Kathy moved on to Terrence. I'm sure glad to see you, Terrence, she said. You are? Asked Terrence. Yeah, said Kathy. I thought you'd be in jail by now. Todd came running across the playground. Hi, Todd, shouted Shari right in Louis's ears. Todd kept running. Hey, Todd, called Jason. Good to see you. Hi, Todd, called Myron and DJ. But Todd didn't answer. He just kept running until he reached the school building. Then he kissed Wayside School. Out of all the schools, Todd had been sent to the very worst one. It was awful. The first thing he had to do every morning was, wait a second, I don't have to tell you. You already know. Todd was sent to your school! And that's chapter 1. That is chapter 1. Wacky. Todd, my school wasn't that bad. Honestly, if Todd was sent to my school, it was pretty bad. Mostly because I was in containment the entire time. I used to do drugs with Todd in the ditch after gym. You did drugs with Todd? And you didn't share? I want a smunk weeb. Oh. Alright, we're on chapter 2. Chapter 2, a message from the principal. And as you remember, the principal, dun dun dun, was Mr. Kidswatter. I got Todd hooked on galaxy gas. Some straight gas, man. Galaxy gas. This is why Todd is always getting in trouble. He always stinks of that dank, that good. God. Ridiculous. Alright, chapter 2, a message from the principal. Damien hurried up the stairs. He couldn't wait to see Mrs. Jules, his favorite teacher in the whole world. But the 30th floor was a lot higher up than he remembered, even if there was no 19th. By the time he got up there, his legs hurt, his side ached, and he had a blister on the back of his ankle where it rubbed against his sneaker. He stumbled into the room and collapsed on the floor. Hi, Mrs. Jules, he gasped. Hi, Damien. Welcome back, said Mrs. Jules. Damien looked up at her. Something seemed different about her, but he wasn't sure what it was. "Oh, Damien, would you do me a favor?" she asked. "Sure," said Damien. "I left my pencil in the office," said Mrs. Jules. "Would you mind going down and getting it for me?" "No problem," said Damien. "It's yellow," said Mrs. Jules. "It has a point on one end and a red eraser at the other." Damien got to his feet and headed down the stairs. One by one, the other children staggered into the classroom, huffing and puffing. They were all out of shape. Still, they were very excited to be back in Mrs. Jules' class. Shouts of joy could be heard from every corner of the room. Mrs. Jules held up 2 fingers. All the children became quiet. Joy stopped shouting. Mrs. Jules told the children to sit at their old desks. "So, did anyone learn anything at your old schools? At your other schools?" she asked. Mac raised his hand. "Ooh! Ooh!" he grunted. "Yes, Mac," said Mrs. Jules. "Civilization!" declared Mac. "What about civilization?" asked Mrs. Jules. "We learned it," said Mac. "That's very impressive," said Mrs. Jules. "Would you like to tell the class something about civilization?" Mac thought a moment. "I don't remember," he said, "but I know we learned it." "That's good, Mac," said Mrs. Jules. "Anyone else learn anything?" Rondi raised her hand. "Evaporation," she said. "Good," said Mrs. Jules. "What is evaporation?" "I don't know," said Rondi. Dana raised her hand. "I learned about exaggeration," she said. "It was all my teacher ever talked about. We had like 10,000 tests on it, and the teacher would kill you if you didn't spell it right." "That's very good, Dana," said Mrs. Jules. "You learned your lesson well." "I did?" asked Dana. Mrs. Jules shrugged. "Well, I guess we'll just continue where we left off." Just then, Mr. Kidswater's voice came over the PA system. "Good morning, boys and girls!" Mr. Kidswater was the principal. He paused a moment, because he thought every kid in the school was saying, "Good morning, Mr. Kidswater," back to him. Nobody said it. Shari buried her head in her huge coat, closed her eyes, and went to sleep. "Welcome back to Wayside School," said Mr. Kidswater. "I know I'm sure glad to be back. It was wonderful to see all your bright and chipper faces this morning. I missed every single one of you. And welcome back to Miss Mush, too. Today's lunch menu will be baked liver in purple sauce. Miss Mush actually cooked this before the school was closed, but she assures me it is still as tasty as ever. It's a health food violation." "I'm sure it is," said Myron. "A safety reminder. Now, it has been a while since you've had to rush up and down the stairs, and I want to make sure there are no accidents. So remember this simple rule. When you go up the stairs, stay to your right. When you go down the stairs, stay to your left. That way, there should be no problems. Okay, let's all have a good day. And remember, I'm your friend, and you're my friends. And if you ever need a friend, you can always come to me." "Isn't that nice?" said Mrs. Jules. "What a bunch of baloney! There I was, lying on a beach in Jamaica when suddenly I get a fax that the dumb school was back open. Well, those kids better not bother me. My friends? That's a joke. Like I would really want to be friends with those little snot-nosed... What? Don't tell me to shut up. You shut up. What's on? You mean they're hearing what I'm saying right this very second? Well, how do you turn it off? What button? I don't see a red button. There is no red button. Oh, here it is. And that's chapter 2. Has the stranger sold the kids crack yet? Quack. Quack cocaine. Snort, snort, snort. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Fucking kid swatter. They did this exact gag in the first episode of the animated TV show. Because I watched about that far when I was, like, watching the first episode to see if, like, it would be stomachable. It's stomachable. It's a cute enough show. I haven't seen a lot of it, but I've seen enough. Yeah. Sorry, I'm skimming the next chapter to see what it's about. It's called Chapter 3, Poetry. If we're all ready. Oh, Brendan's doing another Nuzlocke. Yuki names Pokemon, Poison Type Pokemon, no items in battle, but hell items are okay. No overliving, and no more Pokemon than the gym leader. Good luck! That's a tough Nuzlocke challenge. Good luck. You fucking kid swatter, man. Yeah, he seems like kind of a goofball character in the show. Like, he doesn't seem malicious. Like, in the books, he seems a little malicious. He seems a little bit like a malicious hard ass. But in the show, he seems more like a goofy goober who's just, like, inept at his job. I still believe this whole school is a psyop. Honestly, I agree with you. Just because, what the fuck is the deal with the Men in Black? Like, I'm really excited to get to the Men in Black chapter of this book. And if they don't do a Men in Black chapter in this book, I'm gonna riot because I need more Men in Black lore. I need to figure out what the fuck is going on. I'm also hoping we get a riddle in the riddle book about the Men in Black so that we can hopefully maybe get some lore about it from the riddle. You know, like when we solve the riddle, we unlock a little nugget of lore, maybe. I'm not holding my breath, though, just because this book is not heavy on the lore. So we'll just have to see. What if the basement is like the Evangelion basement? I mean, we saw the basement of the last book. It's basically like a big black void where the Men in Black live. And the Men in Black make Faustian deals with the children. Byron is free, but at what cost? And we have yet to see that cost. So. We are on to Chapter 3, Poetry. Mrs. Jules told everyone to pick a color and write a poem about it. Huh? Said Joy. For example, said Mrs. Jules, if brown was your favorite color, you might write, at the circus, I saw a clown. On his face was a great big frown. His sad eyes were big and brown. Could you repeat that just a little bit slower? Asked Joy. Mrs. Jules repeated it for her. Oh, I'm going to do purple, said Rondi. Rondi loved anything purple. You can't do purple, said Allison. I'm doing it. So, said Rondi, Mrs. Jules didn't say two people couldn't do the same color. But purple is my favorite color in the world, said Allison. Rondi and Allison were best friends, but Allison always got her way. Rondi switched to blue. Joe raised his hand. I don't know what rhymes with red, he said. Mrs. Jules gave him a few suggestions. Bed, lead, wed. Think of words that end in ed. Oh, I get it, said Joe. He set to work. There's a giant meat thing crucified with orange tang everywhere. Yes, that's exactly what's in the basement. I'm glad you know. I'm glad you understand. Rondi tried to think of words that rhymed with blue. She raised her hand. Mrs. Jules, she said, I chose blue. Can I rhyme that with zoo? Yes, that would be a good rhyme, agreed Mrs. Jules. How about glue? Asked Rondi. Yes, that rhymes too, said Mrs. Jules. Oh, I know, said Rondi. How about stew? Just pick one and get started, said Mrs. Jules. Rondi smiled. This is fun, she told Allison. There are lots of words that rhyme with blue. Allison grunted. Nothing rhymed with purple. In her mind, Allison had gone through every letter of the alphabet. Airple, burple, curple, derple, all the way to zerple. But after making a big stink over it with Rondi, she couldn't switch colors now. Rondi was just about to start her poem when she got an even better idea. Love that's true. Poets are always writing about love that's true, aren't they, Mrs. Jules? Sometimes, said Mrs. Jules. Rondi smiled, except she didn't really know much about true love. Morning dew, she said. Poets write about morning dew, too, don't they, Mrs. Jewel? I believe so, said Mrs. Jules. Dana walked to Mrs. Jules' desk. I can't think of anything that rhymes with pink, she complained. I'm sure you'll think of something, said Mrs. Jules. She winked at her. I can't think, said Dana. My mind's on the blink. I'm no good at poetry. I stink. Just keep trying, said Mrs. Jules. Dana returned to her seat. She started to put her name on her paper, but her pen wouldn't write. Great, she complained. Now my pen's out of ink. Hey, Dana, whispered John. Do you want to borrow my pen? Sure, said Dana. Too bad. I'm using it, said John. Then he and Joe cracked up. Meanwhile, Allison was going through the alphabet for the 10th time. Merple, nurple, hourple, quirple, she thought. My left shoe! Exclaimed Rondi. You better choose something, Rondi, and get started, advised Mrs. Jules. I got it, said Rondi. A bird that flew. At the end of the day, the children turned in their poems. Yellow by Kathy. I don't feel too well, oh. I don't know who to tell, oh. I'm sick and I smell, oh. My barf is yellow. Brown by Joy. At the circus I saw a clown. On his face was a great big frown. His sad eyes were big and brown. Green by Stephen. The swimming pool has lots of chlorine. It turned my hair green. Red by Joe. The fire truck is red. It hurried. The siren wailed. The house burned. The fireman saved the baby who screamed. Pink by Dana. My favorite color is pink. John is a rat fink. Purple by Allison. The baby won't stop crying. His face is turning purple. Will anything make him feel better? I bet a burple. Blue by Rondi. That was as far as she got. Joy, at least fucking change it! Well, you see, Joy's whole thing is that she steals shit. Joy's whole thing is that she's a fucking kleptomaniac. Kleptomaniac plagiarist. She's always stealing people's lunch. Why wouldn't she be stealing their poems? Chapter 4. Dr. Pickle. I know this. You know this. I'm just saying. Dirty plagiarist. She's the reason that H-Bomber Guy video exists. Alright. Chapter 4. Dr. Pickle. Actually, his name was Dr. Pickle, with the accent on the second syllable. But that wasn't why everyone called him Dr. Pickle. Dr. Pickle was a psychiatrist. He had thick eyebrows and wore tiny glasses. He had a small beard on the tip of his pointed chin. A psychiatrist is a doctor who doesn't cure people with sick bodies. He cures people with sick minds. Although, Dr. Pickle had a pretty sick mind himself. One day, a woman came into his office. She smoked too much and wanted him to help her quit. "I know that smoking is no good for me," she said as she puffed on her cigarette. "It's bad for my heart. It fills my lungs with gunk. And my husband won't kiss me because my breath stinks. But I can't quit." She finished her cigarette, smushed it out on an ashtray, then immediately lit another one. "Have a seat," said Dr. Pickle. She sat down on the couch. "Look into my eyes," said Dr. Pickle. The woman stared into his deep, penetrating eyes. Not a good enough reason to use the word penetrate. Dr. Pickle held up a gold chain. At the end of the chain was a green stone that was almost transparent, but not quite. It looked like a pickle, hence his name. "Watch the pickle," he said as he gently moved the chain. The pickle went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The woman's eyes went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. "Put down your cigarette," said Dr. Pickle in a strong but gentle voice. The woman set her cigarette in the ashtray as she continued to stare at the pickle. "You are getting sleepy," said Dr. Pickle. "Your eyelids are getting heavy." The woman blinked her eyes. "When I count to 3, said Dr. Pickle, "you will fall into a deep, deep sleep. 1, 2, 3. The woman's eyes closed. Dr. Pickle put down the pickle. "Can you hear me?" he asked. "Yes," said the woman in a low voice from deep inside her. "You will do what I say," said Dr. Pickle. "I will do what you say," the woman repeated. "I'm going to count to 5, said Dr. Pickle, "and when you wake up, as usual, you will want to smoke a cigarette." "I will want to smoke a cigarette," the woman repeated. "But when you put the cigarette in your mouth," said Dr. Pickle, "it will feel just like a worm. A wiggling, slimy worm." "A yucky, icky worm," repeated the woman. "Good," said Dr. Pickle. "Now, just one more thing." He rubbed his beard and smiled. "Whenever your husband says the word potato, you will slap him across the face." "When Fred says potato, I will slap his face." "Good," said Dr. Pickle. He counted to 5. The woman woke up. "So, do you think you can help me?" she asked in her normal voice as she reached for her cigarette. Dr. Pickle shrugged. She put her cigarette in her mouth, then screamed as she pulled it out. She looked at the cigarette, puzzled. "Huh?" she said. She placed it back in her mouth, then spit it out onto the floor. "I'm sorry," she said, a little confused. She picked up the cigarette and put it in the ashtray. "That's all right," said Dr. Pickle. She took out a new cigarette from her pack, but as soon as she put that one in her mouth, she spit it out too. "I'm sorry," she said again. "I don't know what's come over me." She walked out of his office shaking her head. She dropped her pack of cigarettes in the trash. She never smoked again. It was an interesting thing about the word potato. Whenever Fred said it, she slapped him. And he'd ask her why she slapped him, but she never remembered slapping him, so they'd get in a big fight, each calling the other crazy. Then they'd kiss and make up, which was nice because her breath didn't stink. They never figured out it had anything to do with saying potato. How could they? But deep down, they both must have realized it somehow, because while they used to eat lots of potatoes, they gradually ate fewer and fewer, until finally they stopped eating them altogether. Dr. Pickle was a good doctor, but he kept playing those kinds of jokes on people. There was a woman who quacked like a duck whenever she saw a freight train with more than 20 cars. There was a man who took off his shoe anytime someone said parking meter. Eventually, Dr. Pickle was caught, and he was no longer allowed to practice psychiatry, so he had to find another job. He became a counselor at an elementary school. I think I came late. It's all good. We're only like four chapters in. Yeah, we're on chapter 5. I know this man's. I know this man's. Dr. Pickle. Dr. Pickle prescribed me my HRT. Oh boy. Here we go. All right. Chapter 5. A story with a disappointing ending. I'm already looking forward to this. Paul's father was a security guard at a museum. The museum had a very famous painting. It was painted by Leonardo da Vinci. It was called the Mona Lisa. Next to the painting was a sign. All day, Paul's father made sure nobody touched the painting. At night, after the museum closed, Paul's father was alone. Just him and the Mona Lisa. And the sign. Do not touch! Do not touch! Do not. He was dying to touch it. The tips of his fingers tingled with desire. But this story isn't about Paul's father. It's about Paul. Paul was a student in Mrs. Jewell's class. He sat behind Leslie. Leslie had 2 long brown pigtails that reached down to her waist. They just hung there all day, right in front of Paul's face. The Mona Leslie. Do not touch! Do not touch! Do not! Paul reached out, grabbed, and yanked! Yeah! Screamed Leslie. Mrs. Jewell sent Paul to the counselor's office. The counselor's office was on the 4th floor. Paul had never been there before. Like every student in Wayside School, he was afraid of the counselor. The counselor had a very scary face, with big bushy eyebrows and a little beard on his pointed chin. Paul knocked on the door. "Come in," said the counselor. Paul entered and sat down on the couch. "What's the problem?" asked the counselor. "I pulled Leslie's pigtails again," said Paul. "I know it's wrong, but I just can't help myself." "Watch the pickle," said the counselor. Paul's eyes went back and forth as he stared at the swaying pickle. "You are getting sleepy," said the counselor. "Your eyelids are getting heavy." Paul suddenly felt very tired. He could hardly keep his eyes open. "When I count to 3, said the counselor, "you will fall into a deep, deep sleep. 1, 2, 3. Paul closed his eyes. He wasn't exactly asleep. He felt like he was living in a dream, but it was a very pleasant dream. He felt happy and safe. "Can you hear me?" asked the counselor. "Yes," said Paul. He was no longer afraid of the counselor. In fact, he liked him a lot. "You will do what I say," said the counselor. "I will do what you say," Paul repeated. "I am going to count to 5, said the counselor, "and then you will wake up. You will return to your classroom. You will take your seat behind Leslie. You will want to pull one of her pigtails, but when you reach for it, it will turn into a rattlesnake." Leslie's pigtails are rattlesnakes, said Paul. Very good, said the counselor. Now, just one more thing. He rubbed his beard and smiled. When Leslie says the word pencil, her ears will turn into candy. The most delicious candy in the world. The candy of your dreams. Paul licked his lips. He could almost taste the rich chocolate and chewy caramel. And you will try to eat the candy. When Leslie says pencil, I will eat her ears, said Paul. The counselor counted to 5. Paul's eyes blinked open. You may go back to class now, said the counselor. I'm not in trouble? Asked Paul. No, said the counselor. Paul shrugged. He returned to class. As he passed Leslie, she stuck out her tongue at him. He sat down behind her. What'd the counselor do to you? Asked Eric Fry. Nothing, said Paul. He's a nice man. He looked at Leslie's pigtails. He had pulled the one on the left, but he still wanted to pull the one on the right. He lunged for it. It hissed at him. Its tail rattled. He screamed and fell back over in his chair. Everyone laughed. Paul, are you all right? Asked Mrs. Jules. I guess so, said Paul, getting back up. He didn't feel much like pulling Leslie's pigtails anymore. It was just a short while later that Leslie's pencil point broke. Oh, great, she complained. What's the matter? Asked Jenny, who sat next to Leslie. Leslie showed her broken pencil point. You want to borrow mine? Asked Eric Fry, who sat behind Jenny. No, I'll just go sharpen it, said Leslie. She went to the back of the room and sharpened her pencil. She returned to her seat. She set the pencil on her desk, but it rolled off when she sat down. Hey, where'd it go? She asked, turning around. Where'd what go? Asked Paul. There it is, said Jenny. Under Paul's desk. What's under my desk? Asked Paul. I'll get it, said Eric Fry. He reached under Paul's desk, picked up the pencil, and handed it to Leslie. She thanked him, and everyone returned to work. The kids in the school need therapy. The therapist needs therapy. The story with a disappointing ending. A story with a disappointing ending. The tease. The tease. But Paul is still hypnotized. Paul is still hypnotized. Chapter 6. Pet Day. All the kids in Mrs. Jewell's class brought a pet to school. The room was very noisy. Dogs barked. Cats meowed. A frog croaked. A pig squealed. A cow mooed. Birds tweeted. Mrs. Jewell held up 2 fingers. All the animals became quiet. Stephen didn't have a pet, so he brought an orange. He kept it in a cage on his desk so it couldn't escape. Todd brought Ralphie, his baby brother. Todd, said Mrs. Jewell. Todd barked. You cannot have a pet human, said Mrs. Jewell. He doesn't bite, Todd assured her. Joy told Todd to sit and be quiet. Mrs. Jewell got a large piece of poster board from the supply closet. Let's make a chart, she said. Across the top of her chart she wrote, name of kid, kind of pet, name of pet. She started with Dee Dee. She wrote Dee Dee under name of kid. And you have a dog, she said. Cat, said Dee Dee. Cat? Dee Dee nodded as she petted her dog. Mrs. Jewell moved on to Ron. Ron, I see you have a cat. Dog, said Ron as he stroked the cat on his lap. Mrs. Jewell shrugged. Okay, she said. He's my dog, said DJ. Ron has your dog? Asked Mrs. Jewell. Ron has a cat, said DJ. That's what I thought, said Mrs. Jewell. But what's a dog? Said Jenny. Mrs. Jewell covered her ears and shook her head. Let's start all over again, said Mrs. Jules. She got a new piece of poster board from the supply closet. Mac, what's your dog's name? What's my dog's name? Said Jenny. I'm not talking to you, Jenny. I'm talking to Mac. He can't talk, said Mac. Who can't talk? Asked Mrs. Jules. Mac, said Mac. Billy barked at Mac. Mac barked at Billy. Todd barked at both of them. Joy made Todd lie down by her feet. Mrs. Jules moved on. What's your pet, Myron? She asked. Your pet's a turtle, said Shari. What? Asked Mrs. Jules. That's Jenny's pet, said Shari. Jenny's pet is a dog, said Mrs. Jules. What's his name, Jenny? Jenny nodded. Her dog sat up straight and tall and seemed to smile at Mrs. Jules. He's handsome, said Mrs. Jules. My mouse is handsome, said Benjamin. Benjamin had a little white mouse in a cage on his desk. If you like mice, said Dana, making a face. Mrs. Jules likes mice, said Calvin. She eats them. Gross, said Dana. He won't come when you call him, said Kathy. He doesn't know his name. Billy meowed. Will Mrs. Jules eat yogurt? Asked John. No way, said Calvin. I will too, said Mrs. Jules. I like yogurt. I like strawberry best. Mauricia beamed. Mrs. Jules likes strawberry best, she bragged. You shouldn't pick favorites, complained Dana. Do you like crackers, Mrs. Jules? Asked Rondi. Don't worry, said Calvin. Mrs. Jules won't eat crackers. How do you know what I'll eat, Calvin? Asked Mrs. Jules, a little annoyed. I like eating crackers with cheese on top. Oh, gross, said Myram. He won't come when you call him, Kathy said again. Mac, keep Mac away from my socks, shouted Allison. Wait, said Jason. Now you've got my socks and I've got your socks. I can tell the difference between my socks and your socks, Jason, said Allison. Mrs. Jules covered her ears and shook her head. She moved on. What's your pet, Damien? She asked. I already told you he was a turtle, said Shari. I wasn't talking to you, Shari, said Mrs. Jules. I was talking to Damien. Your nose a ferret, said Damien. My nose a ferret? Asked Mrs. Jules. My nose a hamster, said Joe. Billy bleated. Mrs. Jules licked her leg. Hey, Paul, said Leslie. I like your pigtails. Thanks, said Paul. May I touch your pajamas? Go ahead, said Bebe, who was already petting Leslie's pajamas. She won't scratch you. This is crazy, shouted Terrence. He's cute, said Dana. Okay. This is a giant who's on first joke. Because, like, someone's pet is named Pajamas. Someone's pet is named, two people have named their pet Socks. Terrence has an animal named Crazy. Whole class has been exposed to asbestos. I was really hoping at the end we'd get a chart that says who, like, who has what animal? Because I'm pretty sure, like, there's several animals named Billy, it looks like. Calvin has an animal named Mrs. Jules that eats mice, so I assume it's a snake. Mauricia has an animal named Strawberry. Or a cat, that's true. Paul has an animal named Pigtails. Okay, for the video, I'm going to have to make the chart of who owns what animal and what animal they are. I have to do it. I have to decode this chapter. I have to decode this chapter. This is the most ridiculous brain teaser chapter ever. Yeah, I want to see, because there's a page here, because I have a PDF from my local public library. Everyone say thank you, Alienville local public library. This isn't the Da Vinci Code. Yes, it is. Wayside School is the Da Vinci Code, and I must decode it. So I'm wondering if there's like supposed to be an image here on this page that isn't loading. That might explain who owns what animal. I'll just have to look it up. Alright, we're on Chapter 7. Chapter 7, A Bad Word. Early in the morning, a white limousine drove up to Wayside School, just like always. The chauffeur got out of the car, then opened the passenger door, just like always. Mr. Kidswatter stepped out of the car. "Thank you, James," he said. "My name is David," said the chauffeur, just like always. Mr. Kidswatter entered the school building. "Good morning, Mr. Kidswatter," said Mrs. Day, the school secretary. She handed him a cup of hot coffee, just like always. "Thank you, Miss Knight," said Mr. Kidswatter. He walked into his office, except his office door was closed. He smashed into it, spilling coffee all over his green suit. "Who closed my door?" he demanded. "Why didn't you just open it?" asked Mrs. Day. "It was always open in the morning," said Mr. Kidswatter. "How was I supposed to know it was closed this time?" Up on the 30th story, Mrs. Jules took roll. Todd was absent. "Oh dear, I hope Todd is all right," said Mrs. Jules. "Todd's never all right," said Joy. She and Mauricia laughed. Damien looked at Mrs. Jules. Ever since he returned to Wayside School, he'd thought there was something different about her, but he still couldn't figure out what it was. Mr. Kidswatter's voice came over the PA system. "Good morning, boys and girls." There was the usual pause. "Today I want to talk about doors," said Mr. Kidswatter. "This should be interesting," said Mrs. Jules. "Do you know how many doors there are in this school building?" asked Mr. Kidswatter. Mrs. Jules shook her head. "Well, there are a lot. Over 30. And some of you probably have doors at home, too. Maybe more than one. All those doors. Think about it." "Well, Mr. Kidswatter has certainly given us something to think about this morning," said Mrs. Jules. "So remember," said Mr. Kidswatter, "and please be careful. Always check to see if a door is open before going through it. And if it's not open, open it. If you can't open it yourself, ask someone to open it for you. This may not make a lot of sense to you now, but someday you'll thank me." Mrs. Jules looked around the class. "That's good advice," she said. "I think most of you already knew it, but at least it's nice to know we have a principal who cares." "I hate doors," shouted Mr. Kidswatter. "It's a dumb word. Door, door, door. Who made up that word anyway?" Mrs. Jules waited a little longer, but Mr. Kidswatter seemed to be finished. "Some people just don't like doors," she said. "I've made a new rule," declared Mr. Kidswatter. "You may no longer say that word. You know what word I mean, but don't say it. Instead, I have made up a new word for you. Goozak. Open the goozak, shut the goozak, lock the goozak. Don't you think that's a better word? From now on, that other word is a bad word. I have made my decision." Everyone turned around and looked at the goozak. Suddenly, it opened. Todd entered. "I'm sorry I'm late," he said. "That's okay," said Mrs. Jules. I'm just glad you're not sick or hurt. My dad locked his keys in the car, Todd explained. We had to use a coat hanger to unlock the door. Everyone gasped. Mrs. Jules made Todd write his name on the blackboard under the word discipline. Free my boy Todd! He did nothing wrong! Free my boy Todd! Free my man Todd! Free my boy Todd! He did nothing wrong. My boy Todd did nothing wrong. Mr. Kidswatter is a menace. I'm coming for your job. Mr. Kidswatter, when I get you. Me when I fucking get you. Free my man Todd. Hashtag free Todd. Todd did nothing wrong. Oh, Chapter 8, Santa Claus. Oh, holiday episode. Guys, we got a holiday episode. 'Twas the last day of school before winter vacation, and the children were having a small celebration. Their artwork was hung by the blackboards with pride, snowmen and mooses, and a joyful sleigh ride. They ate homemade cookies, red and green ones, of course, when Kathy declared, I don't believe in Santa Claus. She just opened her mouth and said what she said. Santa Claus isn't real, and besides that, he's dead. So you bet I will pout, and you bet I will cry, and you bet I will shout. I'm telling you why. Stephen covered his ears. No, you're wrong, he shouted. It's not true. There is a Santa Claus. I know there is. Ho, 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 laughed Kathy. Kathy is just saying that because she never gets any presents, said Jason. Hey, Shiroi. Good morning, Yuki. Apologies if you're not able to watch the stream. I'm in school for orientation. Shiroi. It's all good. Ohayo gozaimasu, Shiroi. Hope you have a good day at school. We're reading a book. It's good to hear from you. I'm glad you're doing well. Have a good day at school. Ganbate. I believe in you. All she ever gets is a lump of coal, said Rondi. Wrong, said Kathy. I get lots of presents. My parents buy them for me. They have lots of money. They buy me anything I want. I have beef with a child. I have beef with this child. She bit off the head of a reindeer cookie. The only thing that matters is how rich your parents are. If they have lots of money, then you'll get lots of good presents. If they're poor, then you'll just get a few crummy presents. Everyone tried to argue with her, but Kathy just asked them all the old questions like, how does a fat man fit down a skinny chimney? Or how can he visit everyone's house in the whole world in one night? And of course, nobody knew the answers. Nobody ever has. Only Santa knows the answers to those questions, said Rondi. Don't you even like Christmas? Asked Stephen. Sure, said Kathy. I get lots of presents and I don't have to work. Then she stuck out her tongue and called Stephen a jerk. Poor Stephen sputtered, and his face turned quite blue. If you don't believe in Santa, he won't believe in you. But Kathy just yelped. You know that it's true. Do you still believe in the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, and Miss Zarves, too? Let's ask Mrs. Jules, said Mauricia. She's a teacher who's wise. Let's ask Mrs. Jules. She never lies. The children crowded round their wise teacher's desk and asked her the question never found on a test. Is there a Santa? You're a teacher with smarts. Is Santa Claus real? They asked with pure hearts. And oh, Mrs. Jules, that teacher so wise, looked at their faces and bright, eager eyes. She had to say something. It was her job to reply. Tell them, yelped Kathy, that reindeer can't fly. Outside the window, snowflakes were falling. Inside the window, Mrs. Jules was stalling. Are our parents all liars? Is it all just a trick to make us be good for fear of Saint Nick? Tell us the truth. Don't try to fake it. Is there a Santa? Let us know. We can take it. Mrs. Jules cleared her throat, then she cleared it again. She put down her pencil. She picked up her pen. "Hey, look!" shouted Leslie. "Look there! Who's that? Someone is coming in! Through the Guzak!" Sure enough, the door opened. It had to open quite wide, as a strange-looking stranger stepped sideways inside. He wore a red suit and had a white fluffy beard, and even for Wayside, he looked pretty weird. His fat belly shook like a bowl full of jello. There was no doubt about it. They knew that fellow. It was Lewis, the art teacher. "What are you doing wearing that stupid suit, Lewis?" asked Shari. "Aren't you hot?" "Why are you wearing a fake beard?" asked Todd. "Is that a pillow under your jacket?" asked Jason. Kathy was delighted. "See," she said, "that proves there's no Santa Claus. If there was, Lewis wouldn't have to dress up like a fool and pretend to be him." "I'm not Lewis," said Lewis. "I'm Santa Claus. Ho, ho!" "You're lying to us, Lewis," said John. "Everyone is always lying to us. Kathy's right. Christmas is nothing but a dirty, stinking lie." "I was just trying to bring a little holiday cheer," said Lewis. "Go home, Jerome," said Terrence. "Now that's no way to talk to Lewis," said Mrs. Jules. "Lewis is one of Santa's special helpers." "Really, Lewis?" asked Dee Dee. Lewis looked at Mrs. Jules. "That's right," he said. The children were all very impressed. "Have you ever met him?" demanded Kathy. "Well, no, not exactly," Lewis admitted. "See," said Kathy, "it's just another lie." "You don't have to meet Santa to be one of his special helpers," said Mrs. Jules. "Then how do you know what he wants you to do?" asked John. "That's easy," said Mrs. Jules. "You just have to be nice to other people. Whenever you give someone a present or sing a holiday song, you're helping Santa Claus. To me, that's what Christmas is all about. Helping Santa Claus." "Can I be one of his helpers?" asked Damien. "You bet," said Mrs. Jules. "Hey, everybody," shouted Damien. "I'm one of Santa's helpers." "Me too," said Allison. "There must be a Santa Claus," cheered Stephen, "because it feels so good to help him." So the children all helped Santa in every way they could, by singing songs and giving gifts, and just by being good. "But there is no Santa Claus," Kathy continued to yelp. "Well, if that's the case," said Mrs. Jules, "he must really need our help." Lewis, my beloved. "Lewis, I love you. I would die for you. I love him. I love him. I love him." Lewis loves you. Mrs. Jules with the fucking save. Christmas in July. It's Christmas in July. There's a whole Rankin Bass short about Christmas in July. There's a whole Rankin Bass special about that. Frosty's Christmas in July. All right, we are on chapter 9. Something different about Mrs. Jules. The children returned from Christmas vacation. On each desk were 2 knitting needles and a hunk of yarn. "Today we are going to learn how to knit," said Mrs. Jules. She showed the class how it was done. "See, you stick this needle through here, then wrap this around like this, stick this through this, pull this like this, and then you stick this here. Any questions?" Everyone stared at her. "She's pregnant, I think." "She's pregnant? She's pregnant!" "Good," said Mrs. Jules. "I want everybody to make socks." "Okay, get started." Damien looked at his knitting needles. He didn't have a clue. He looked back at Mrs. Jules. Now more than ever, he was sure she was somehow different. She was sitting at her desk, knitting and eating bolognios. Damien couldn't remember Mrs. Jules ever eating a bolognio before. A bolognio was an Oreo cookie, except instead of the white part, There was a round hunk of bologna. Miss Mush invented them. "Hey, Mac," whispered Damien. "Does Mrs. Jules seem different to you?" "She's fat," said Mac. "That's not a nice thing to say," said Damien. "I didn't say it to Mrs. Jules," said Mac. "I didn't go, 'Hey, Mrs. Jules, you're fat.'" Mrs. Jules cleared her throat as she stood up. She walked around the room. "Very nice, DJ," she said. "You're doing fine, Rondi." She stopped at Joe's desk. "Oh, Joe," she gussed. "Look at it, everybody. I want you to see Joe's sock." She held it up. "Isn't it the most beautiful sock you ever saw?" It was a great sock. Everybody oohed and ahed. Joe was as surprised as anyone. He didn't know he knew how to make socks, but the boy was born to knit. Mrs. Jules started to cry. "I love this sock," she sobbed. "Uh-oh," said Kathy. "I think she's finally flipped out." "I love you, Kathy," said Mrs. Jules. She looked around the room. "I love all of you." She put her hand on Kathy's desk. "I love this desk," she said. "I love the blackboard. I love the clock on the wall." There was a ruler on the floor. Mrs. Jules picked it up. "I love this ruler," she declared. "Hey, that's mine," said Dana. But, that's okay, Mrs. Jules. You can have it." "I don't want your ruler, Dana," said Mrs. Jules, handing it to her. "You want my pair of scissors?" offered Shari. "Don't give her anything sharp," warned Kathy. Mrs. Jules wiped away her tears and smiled at the class. "I'm going to miss all of you very much," she said. "Are you going away?" asked Damien. "Yeah, to the loony bin," whispered Kathy. "Are you sick?" asked Eric Ovens. "No, I'm not sick," said Mrs. Jules. "In fact, I'm better than I've ever been," she beamed. "I'm going to have a baby." Everyone gasped. You got it, Kryptonite. You got it in one. Damien couldn't believe it. He was so happy he jumped out of his seat and hugged Mrs. Jules. She was soon surrounded by all her students, even Kathy, wanting to hug her. "Today is my last day here," Mrs. Jules told her students. "My doctor doesn't want me walking up and down 30 flights of stairs every day. I wasn't even supposed to come today, but I just had to say goodbye." "I thought you were getting fat," said Mac, "but I didn't want to say anything." "Thank you, Mac," said Mrs. Jules. "You're very considerate." "Can I touch your stomach?" asked Stephen. Mrs. Jules laughed. "Sure." The children took turns touching her stomach. "What are you going to name your baby?" asked Allison. "I don't know yet," said Mrs. Jules. "What do you think?" "Well, if she's a girl," said Allison, "I think you should name her Rainbow Sunshine." "That's a nice name," said Mrs. Jules. "And if he's a boy?" "Buckethead," said Allison. She didn't like boys. "If he's a boy, you should name him Jet Rocket," said Joe. "Jet Rocket Jules," mused Mrs. Jules. "That has a nice ring to it." "And what if she's a girl?" "Cootie Face," said Joe. Mrs. Jules laughed. "So let me get this straight," she said. "If he's a boy, I'll name him Buckethead." "Right," said Allison and Rondi. "And if she's a girl, I'll name her Cootie Face." "Right," said Joe and John. Damien laughed. He knew Mrs. Jules was only joking. At least, he hoped she was. Terrence placed his palm flat against Mrs. Jules' stomach. "Hey!" he exclaimed. "The dude kicked me!" Suddenly, Damien felt very sad. He was going to miss her a lot. He wiped a tear from his eye. "It's unfair," he shouted. "We finally come back to Wayside School after being gone for so long, and now you're leaving us." "I have to," said Mrs. Jules. "I know," whined Damien. "You have to make sure that you and your baby are healthy, but it still isn't fair." "I think you'll like your substitute teacher," said Mrs. Jules. "I spoke to him over the vacation. He seems like a very nice man." "A man?" asked Damien. "Cool." They all thought it was pretty neat to have a man teacher. "Yes," said Mrs. Jules. "His name is Mr. Gorf." Dun, dun, dun! I know the sub. Me when I walk into the BDSM club and it's your mom in the middle of the orgy pit. God. Mr. Gorf. Oh, I mean, Mrs. Gorf was a Mrs. Gorf, so it's only natural that there was a Mr. Gorf. It's only natural. It's how the world should be. All right. Oh, I think this is her son. Her son. She has a son? Who fucked Mrs. Gorf? Who fucked the old crone? Who fucked the hag? Who did this? Who is responsible? Chapter 10. Mr. Gorf. Mr. Gorf, muttered Joy as she walked down the stairs to recess. Did she say Mr. Gorf? The Men in Black? Are you telling me that the Men in Black impregnated Mrs. Gorf? What is this lore? I'm making a joke. It's joke. It's joke. Okay. Still, I wouldn't be surprised with how wacky this book is. Just genuinely. Mr. Gorf, muttered Joy as she walked down the stairs to recess. Did she say Mr. Gorf? Mauricia nodded. Leslie caught up to them. Did she say Mr. Gorf? I think so, said Mauricia. Do you think? Leslie asked. I don't know, said Mauricia. I hope not, said Joy. Before Mrs. Jules ever came to Wayside School, the children had a teacher named Mrs. Gorf. She wasn't very nice. Even Myron was worried, and Myron had never gotten in trouble his whole life. Mr. Gorf might be a good teacher, said Eric Bacon. Just because he has the same last name as Mrs. Gorf doesn't mean he'll be horrible. That's right, said Eric Ovens. People with the same name can be different. I agree, said Eric Fry. There are probably lots of people named Gorf, Damien said hopefully. I bet if you looked in the phone book, you'd find 10 whole pages of Gorfs. Well, I don't know about you. I'm not coming to school tomorrow, said Joy. Me neither, Mauricia agreed. But the next morning, their parents all made them go to school. Everyone arrived on time. Nobody dared to be late. But there was no teacher. Dee Dee sat down next to Myron. Is he here? She whispered. Shh, whispered Myron. He folded his hands on his desk and stared straight ahead. One by one, the children entered the classroom and quietly sat down at their desks. They couldn't take any chances. Mr. Gorf might walk through the door at any moment. Or maybe he was already there, hiding in the coat closet, just waiting for someone to do something wrong. I didn't want to come in today, whispered Calvin, but my parents made me. Shh, said Bebe. He might hear you. Mr. Kidswatter's voice came over the PA system. Good morning, boys and girls. Good morning, Mr. Kidswatter, the children all answered together, like good little boys and girls. They listened attentively to their principal. Then, when Mr. Kidswatter was finished, they took out their arithmetic books and started working. After that, they did social studies, reading, and spelling. When the recess bell rang, the children put their books neatly in their desks, quietly lined up, and walked out of the room and down the stairs. So, how's your substitute teacher? Asked Louis out on the playground. Tough, said Bebe. I've never worked so hard in my life. I did more work before 10 o'clock than most people do in a day, said Calvin. But he's very fair, Myron added quickly, just in case Mr. Gorf was listening. He might have been hiding in the bushes. Yes, he's nice and fair and a very good teacher, said Jenny. Very smart, too, said Dee Dee. We're lucky to have him. Louis twisted the end of his mustache between his fingers. After recess, the children returned to class and worked until lunchtime. At lunch, they ate all the food Miss Mush served them. Their manners were perfect. Mr. Gorf might have been hiding under the table. At lunch, they returned to class and practiced their handwriting. Myron looked around. All of a sudden, he got a terrible urge to do something. Anything! Ugga bugga, he said. Jenny put her finger to her lips. Biff, buff, boof, said Myron a little louder. Shh, said Jenny. Myron stood up. No, he shouted. I don't have to be quiet. Everyone tried to get Myron to hush up. Myron climbed on top of his desk. Look around, folks. There's no teacher. We're doing all this work for nothing. Get down, whispered Allison. Do you want to get us all in trouble? Myron jumped on top of Allison's desk. Hi, Allison, he said. Then he hopped over to Dee Dee's desk, then Ron's, then Mauricia's. Please, Myron, said Mauricia. This is fun, said Myron. He made a great leap and landed on top of the teacher's desk. Hi, Frozmig. Hi. How you doing? How you doing? Welcome, welcome. We're reading Wayside School, and everything is fun and great. Mrs. Jules had always kept a coffee can full of Tootsie Roll Pops on her desk. It was still there. Hey, anyone want a Tootsie Roll Pop? Asked Myron. Everyone stared at him. Myron took one for himself. He sat in the teacher's chair with his feet up on the teacher's desk and sucked on it. Please stop, Myron, begged Jenny. What if he's hiding in the closet? Get real, said Myron. Why would he hide in the closet? What if Mr. Gorf was married to Mrs. Gorf? Asked Allison. Myron laughed. Who would ever want to marry Mrs. Gorf? He asked. Somebody had to marry her, said Rondi, or else she wouldn't have been a Mrs. What if he loved her very much? Asked Allison. And then one day she didn't come home from work, and he never saw her again, and he didn't know what happened to her, but he knew she used to teach this class, so he might be hiding in the closet to try and find out if we're the ones who got rid of her. If I was married to Mrs. Gorf, said Jason, I'd be glad she never came home. He should thank us. Nice going, Jason, said Jenny. If he is hiding in the closet, you just told him we're the ones who got rid of their wife. Well, if I didn't, you just did, said Jason. It doesn't matter, shouted Myron, because Mr. Gorf is not hiding in the closet. Myron went to the back of the room and opened the closet door. A man stepped out. Thank you, he said. I accidentally locked myself in here this morning, and I've been waiting for someone to open the door. Myron swallowed his Tootsie Roll Pop, stick and all. Woke up with a nap, a little bit of head weight, but otherwise it's a good night. It's a good night. Oh no. What was his name? Myron? Jason? Oh no, oh my god. Mr. Gorf knows. Mr. Gorf knows. Mr. Gorf knows. Oh, I think I remember this chapter. I know what he's gonna do. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Life is bad. Yeah. Chapter 11, Voices. My name is Mr. Gorf, said the man who stepped out of the closet. And, surprising as it may seem, the children weren't afraid. It was his voice. His voice was full of comfort and wisdom, like an old leather chair in a dusty library. Didn't matter what he said. Felt good just to listen to him. He was a handsome man, with neatly combed brown hair and clean fingernails. He carried a brown briefcase. Nobody even noticed that his nose had 3 nostrils. Since I'm going to be your teacher for the next few months, let me tell you a bit about myself. I was born in the Himalayan mountains in a town called Kathmandu. Kathmandu, said Terrence. Cool. Everyone laughed. They weren't laughing at Terrence. There was just something about the name of the city and the way Terrence said it. Terrence's voice was like a rusty drainpipe. Have you ever been married? Asked Allison. Allison's voice was like a cat walking across the piano. No, I'm a bachelor, said Mr. Gorf. Allison smiled, greatly relieved. Well, that's enough about me, said Mr. Gorf. How about some of you telling me about yourselves? My name is Mac, said Mac without raising his hand. Mac's voice was like a freight train. I built the biggest snowman you ever saw. Man, it was huge. I had to stand on a ladder to put the hat on his head. It was a stovepipe hat, like Abraham Lincoln wore, but I don't know why they call it that. We have a microwave oven. Have you ever put a bag of marshmallows in a microwave oven? Man, it's like... Mr. Gorf's nose flared. His right nostril flared to the right. His left nostril flared to the left, and the hole in the middle seemed to get larger. Mac coughed. He tried to speak, but no words came out. Thank you, Mac, said Mr. Gorf. Anyone else? Dee Dee raised her hand. Yes, young lady, said Mr. Gorf. Dee Dee giggled. She liked the way he said young lady. My name's Dee Dee, she said. Her voice was small, but full of energy, like a super ball. I like soccer and Ninja Turtles, my favorite. Mr. Gorf's nose flared. Dee Dee lost her voice, too. Who's next? Asked Mr. Gorf. Yes, the girl in the polka dot shirt. My name's Mauricia, said Mauricia. I have 2 brothers and 1 sister. Mauricia's voice was like a pineapple milkshake. Mr. Gorf sucked it up through his nose. Hey, what's going? Said Todd. Look at his nose, shouted Eric Bacon. It has... Eric Bacon had nothing else to say. Nobody say any... Jenny tried to warn. Her voice disappeared up Mr. Gorf's nose. Soon the class was quiet. Mr. Gorf's middle nostril had snorted all of their voices. Except for Allison. She remained silent. She knew she'd only get 1 chance to speak, and she had to wait for the right moment. What good little boys and girls you are, said Mr. Gorf. So nice and quiet, he laughed. Of course, this isn't my real voice, he said. I stole this voice from a gentleman I met in Scotland. He touched the tip of his nose. This is my voice, he squawked. If a donkey could talk, and if the donkey had a sore throat, and if it spoke with a French accent, that was what Mr. Gorf's voice sounded like. But what he said next was even more horrible than his voice. Mrs. Gorf was my mommy. The children sat frozen in their chairs, too scared to move. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Mr. Gorf touched his nose. Who is it? He asked in the pleasant voice he stole from the Scottish gentleman. Miss Mush, said Miss Mush from the other side of the door. I just came up to say hello and welcome you to Wayside School. That's very nice of you, Miss Mush, said Mr. Gorf, but we're very busy right now. Maybe we can get together for tea and crumpets sometime. Miss Mush giggled. That sounds lovely, she said. By the way, Mr. Gorf, are you married? No, I'm single, said Mr. Gorf. So am I, said Miss Mush. Miss Mush, shouted Allison. Help! Mr. Gorf is taking... Mr. Gorf's nose flared. Did you say something, Allison? Asked Miss Mush. Mr. Gorf touched his nose. Then he spoke, this time using Allison's voice. Mr. Gorf is taking us on a field trip next week, but he might need help. Do you want to come with us? Maybe, said Miss Mush. Thank you, Allison. Oh, don't thank me, said Allison's voice. Thank Mr. Gorf. He's the best teacher in the whole world. I'm glad, said Miss Mush. He sounds very charming. And so do you, said Mr. Gorf, speaking like the gentleman from Scotland. He touched his nose. See you later, Miss Mush, said the voice of Eric Ovens. Take care, said Calvin's voice. Have a nice day, said Kathy's voice. Dun, dun, dun! Chapter 12. Nose. They're gonna have to make him sneeze out all of the voices. I'm calling it right here. He's gonna sneeze all the voices out. Kathy would never say that, and that's how they know something's wrong. Chapter 12. Nose. The nose knows. Mr. Gorf locked the door. I don't want any more interruptions, he said. Very quietly, Leslie slipped a piece of paper out of her desk. Then she felt around for a pencil. Mr. Gorf returned to the teacher's desk. He opened the top drawer and took out the class list. It had the names of all the children in the class, their parents' names, their parents' home and work phone numbers. Let's play a game, he said, speaking in his own normal French donkey with a sore throat voice. The name of the game is Who Am I Now? Leslie found a pencil. She held the piece of paper in her lap, where Mr. Gorf couldn't see it, and wrote help in big letters. She had to get it to Louis, the yard teacher. Mr. Gorf touched the tip of his nose. Who am I now? He asked. It was a girl's voice, soft and warm, with just a little bit of a giggle in it. Everyone looked at Rondi. Rondi, said Mr. Gorf. He opened his briefcase and removed a portable phone. He dialed Rondi's home number. Hello, Mommy, Mr. Gorf said into the phone, using Rondi's voice. No, nothing's wrong. I just called to say I hate you. You're the worst mommy in the whole world. You're ugly and you smell bad. It's not fair. Out of all the mommies in the world, I got stuck with you. He hung up the phone. Rondi sat crying in her chair. Mr. Gorf touched his nose. Isn't this a good game? He asked, sounding very much like a sick French donkey. Rondi is crying, and at home her mother is crying too. He laughed. Too bad you won't ever be able to tell her you're sorry, Rondi. Leslie carefully folded the piece of paper into a paper airplane. There was only one open window next to Shari's desk. Mr. Gorf touched his nose. Who am I now? He asked. Everyone tried not to look at Joe. Mr. Gorf called Joe's mother at work. Hello, Mommy, he said. I hate you. I wish you'd go away forever. Then maybe Daddy will marry somebody good this time. Leslie knew she'd only have one chance. It would take a perfect throw. She tossed the paper airplane toward the window. Mr. Gorf saw it. Hey! He shouted. The airplane sailed closer, but then at the last second it made a sudden turn, hit the wall, and landed on the floor. Mr. Gorf laughed. He picked up the airplane and unfolded it. Help! He sneered. No one can help you now. You took my mommy away from me, and I'm going to take your mummies away from you. He touched his nose. Who am I now? He asked. It was Leslie's voice. He started to dial her home phone number, but it was interrupted by a knock on the door. Oh, Mr. Gorf, sang Miss Mush. Yes, said Mr. Gorf, still in Leslie's voice. He touched his nose and cleared his throat. Yes? This time he sounded like a donkey with tonsillitis. He touched his nose again. Yes, he said in the pleasant voice he took from the Scottish gentleman. It's me again, said Miss Mush. Miss Mush's voice was like two boots sloshing through mud. I baked you a pie, Mr. Gorf, to welcome you to Wayside School. Mr. Gorf sighed. You're very kind, Miss Mush, he said, but we are all quite busy at the moment. Perhaps another. It's best to eat it while it's still warm, said Miss Mush. You probably don't get fresh pies very often, being a bachelor and all. I really hate to disturb the class, said Mr. Gorf. I'll tell you what. I'll just come outside a moment and you can hand it to me. He glared at the class, daring them to move. Then he opened the door. I hope you like pepper pie, said Miss Mush. She smashed it in his face. Mr. Gorf turned around. His face was covered with thick pepper cream. He sneezed. Calvin laughed. Hey, my voice is back, said Calvin. Wait a second. This isn't my voice. I sound like BB. Mr. Gorf sneezed again. I can talk, shouted Jenny. But who am I? Mr. Gorf sneezed. You're Mauricia, said Jason. Jason sounded like the gentleman from Scotland. Mr. Gorf kept sneezing. Who might I be, Senny? Paul cackled. He sounded like somebody's grandmother. Todd barked. Achoo! Mr. Gorf sneezed so hard his nose flew off his face. He screamed like a donkey, then ran noseless out of the room. Oh, gross, said Jason. Now I sound like Allison. BB said something in Italian. Nobody panic, said Miss Mush. Your voices are bouncing around, trying to find where they belong. It might take a while, but soon you will be back to normal. How do you know? Asked Leslie, although she sounded like Paul. And how'd you know to smash a pepper pie in Mr. Gorf's face? I wasn't exactly sure, explained Miss Much. But when I came up the first time, I heard Kathy say, have a nice day. So either Kathy had decided to be nice to me, or Mr. Gorf was a mean teacher who sucked up children's voices through his nose. She shrugged. I just didn't think Kathy would be nice. Maybe if you learned to brush your teeth, muttered Kathy. Mr. Gorf's nose lay on the floor. Miss Mush picked it up and put it in her apron pocket. It will go good in spaghetti sauce, she said. Soon all the children had their real voices back. Rondi and Joe called their mothers on Mr. Gorf's portable phone and told them they loved him. While far away in a small village in Scotland, a man who hadn't spoken for 20 years turned to his wife and said, Top of the morning to you, Tilly. Hi, Taco! Pods. Pods! Oh my god! My name is Jacksepticeye. Who is invoking the name of Pods? Oh my god. Hi, everyone. Snake Eyes. It was Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes is the one who's pissing on Pod's grave. Pissing on the graves of both Pods. Glad I'm not the only one who thought Jacksepticeye. Oh boy. Oh my god, another one. Okay. This one is chapter 13, The New Teacher. Alright. Chapter 13, The New Teacher. The new teacher entered the classroom carrying a big blue notebook stuffed with papers. She had white hair and wore glasses. She was a lot older than anyone else in the class. She took a big breath. My, it's tiring walking up all those stairs, isn't it? She said. Nobody said anything. They just stared at her. She set her notebook on the teacher's desk. My name is Mrs. Drazil, she said, and I'm not from Brazil. She smiled at her little joke. Nobody else smiled. After Mrs. and Mr. Gorf, they didn't trust teachers. Drizzle, thought Dee Dee. Where have I heard that name before? Where are you from? Asked Leslie. Actually, I was born not too far from here, said Mrs. Drizzle. Then why'd you say you came from Brazil? Asked Benjamin. No, I said I wasn't from Brazil, said Mrs. Drizzle. Have you ever been to Brazil? Asked Eric Fry. No, explained Mrs. Drizzle. It was just a little joke. Brazil rhymes with drizzle. I thought it might help you remember my name. Terrence laughed. Drizzle! Brazil! He shouted. That's funny. Several other kids laughed too. But not Dee Dee. She had heard of Mrs. Drizzle somewhere. She was sure of it. And whenever she had heard, she was sure it wasn't good. What's a Brazil? Asked Eric Ovens. Brazil is the largest country in South America, said Mrs. Drizzle. Oh, said Eric Ovens. I thought it was one of those things that, women wear, on their bosom. Several kids laughed. No, that's a brassiere, said Mrs. Drizzle. There was more laughter. Stephen was shocked. She said brassiere, he whispered. Right in class. I know, I heard her, said Jason. But Dee Dee still didn't trust her, even if she did say brassiere right out loud. There was a television show that Dee Dee liked to watch. It was about real criminals. At the end of the show, they always asked the viewers to call the police if they knew where any of the criminals were. Dee Dee wondered if she had seen Mrs. Drizzle on that show. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask me? Asked Mrs. Drizzle. Ron raised his hand. Mrs. Drizzle pointed to him. How old are you? Asked Ron. Dana gasped. You're not supposed to ask someone that, she said. Especially someone as old as Mrs. Drizzle, said Mac. Miss Drizzle smiled. I don't mind, she said. I'm 66 years old. You can ask me anything you want. Anything? Asked Joy. I'm a teacher, said Mrs. Drizzle. That's what I'm here for. Paul raised his hand. How much do you weigh? He asked. 124 pounds, said Mrs. Drizzle. How much money do you make? Asked Eric Bacon. I'm a substitute teacher, explained Mrs. Drizzle, so I only make monies on days that I teach. Then I make $51.18 a day. What a rip-off, said Jenny. You should make at least 200. That would be nice, said Mrs. Drizzle, but I'm a teacher because I love to teach. I love to see young children learn. Joy raised her hand. How many men have you kissed in your whole life? Mrs. Drizzle thought a moment as she appeared to be counting on her fingers. 31, she said. Everyone gasped. Dee Dee raised her hand. Mrs. Drizzle smiled at her. Yes, the girl in the pretty flowered t-shirt. Have you ever been in jail? Asked Dee Dee. No, said Mrs. Drizzle. Are the police after you? No, said Mrs. Drizzle. Dee Dee still didn't trust her. Okay, said Mrs. Drizzle. Before we get started, I want to say one more thing. I enjoy teaching so much that sometimes I get a little carried away. I talk too much, so if I start to get boring, will somebody please raise your hand and tell me? For real? Asked Todd. You want us to tell you to stop talking? And we won't get in trouble? Asked Bibi. No, of course not. You'll be helping me and the rest of your class. You're not going to learn anything if you're bored, said Mrs. Drizzle. Oh, cool, said Terrence. Oh, I suppose when I first started teaching, I used to be a little more strict, said Mrs. Drizzle. I even worried about things like whether my students had clean fingernails or if their shirts were tucked in, she laughed. But times have changed. I've changed. Besides, the kids were a lot worse back then. At least some of them were. For just a second, her sweet face turned sour as she looked at her notebook on her desk. Then she smiled again. I believe teaching requires mutual cooperation. I will cooperate with you, and you need to cooperate with me. If we work together, we will have a very enjoyable learning experience. Her face turned sour again. But if you cross me, you will be very, very sorry. She ran her fingers over her blue notebook. Oh, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday I will get you. You can run, but you can't hide. She smiled. Okay, let's get started. Does she have a death note? Mrs. Drizzle is Kira. Mrs. Drizzle could stop Kira. If Mrs. Drizzle was Light Yagami's substitute teacher, we wouldn't have had the Kira murders. Wow, she was much older than I pictured. I mean, I was picturing an old lady, like an old lady. But, 66 isn't that old. She crawls around the ceiling like a spider. Holy moly. Mrs. Drizzle. The smiling friends go to Brazil. So what's this book about exactly? Kids get wacky substitute teachers. This is the third book in our book series. The first book and the second book were setting up the wackiness of the school, Wayside School. And you're kind of missing out on Mrs. Jules right now, because Mrs. Jules is the closest thing we have to a main character. Because it's really an ensemble class. It's an ensemble cast. Definitely gonna check the past VODs then, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out exactly how to explain the elevator pitch, because I don't have the elevator pitch in front of me, because, we were able to just read the, of the opening of the first book, and that was able to, get the vibe. But yeah, there are these 30 kids, and they're in these 28 kids, they're in a class. Wayside School is a wacky school. There's silly stuff that happens. You just go with it, man. And apparently Mrs. Jules is having a baby, and we have a bunch of substitute teachers, and that's the plot for this book. Yep, that's it. Not that having an excuse to listen to Yuki's voice is ever bad. I can feel my voice being tired, so I hope that it still sounds good. even though I'm tired. And honestly, we're on chapter 14. Let me check something really quick. Okay. You should know a tired voice has its own appeal. I hope I'm not too tired sounding, though. I might only read half of the book tonight, just because I'm so tired and I really want to curl up in bed with my dog and my lizard. But we can finish the book tomorrow night, probably. And then do Clue Finders on Friday. Alright. Let's go through chapter 14. A light bulb, a pencil sharpener, a coffee pot, and a sack of potatoes. Galileo was a great scientist, said Mrs. Drizzle. He was born in Italy in 1564 and died in 1642. He was the first person to use a telescope to study the stars. He also helped figure out the laws of gravity. Oh, I know about gravity, said Joe. Mrs. Jules pushed a computer out the window. It fell a lot faster than a pencil. I don't think so, said Mrs. Drizzle. Galileo proved that all objects fall at the same speed. He conducted a very famous experiment. He dropped lots of different objects off the Leaning Tower of Pisa. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is in Italy. It was built in... Todd raised his hand. You're getting a little boring, he said. Oh, my goodness, am I? Asked Mrs. Drizzle. Rondi, Leslie, Paul, and Calvin nodded their head. I'm sorry, said Mrs. Drizzle. She thought a moment. I know, she exclaimed. Let's do the experiment here. The children cheered. They loved experiments. Mrs. Drizzle rubbed her hands together. Let's see. We'll need a coffee pot, a pencil sharpener, a light bulb, and... She thought a moment. We need something heavy. An elephant's heavy, said Benjamin. There are no elephants in Wayside School, said Mrs. Drizzle. Everybody laughed. How about a sack of potatoes? Asked Ron. I bet Miss Mush has one. Go see, said Mrs. Drizzle. There's a coffee pot down in the office, said Stephen. Go get it, said Mrs. Drizzle. If I have a screwdriver, I could get the pencil sharpener off the wall, said Eric Fry. I've got a screwdriver, said Jenny. Can we use a fluorescent light bulb? Asked Bibi. She looked up at the ceiling. I guess so, said Mrs. Drizzle. How do I get it? Asked Bibi. You're the scientist, said Mrs. Drizzle. You figure it out. Bibi put her chair on top of her desk and stood on it. She still couldn't reach the ceiling. Hey, Benjamin, let me have your chair. She put Benjamin's chair on top of hers, but she still wasn't tall enough. Calvin dumped the waste paper basket onto the floor. Try this, he said. Bibi turned the trash can upside down and put it on top of Benjamin's chair. Then she climbed on top, but she still couldn't quite reach. Leslie brought the class dictionary. Jenny and Dana donated their math books. Shari grabbed Mrs. Drizzle's old blue notebook. Put that down! Yelled Mrs. Drizzle. Right now! Shari dropped the notebook. Mrs. Drizzle's kindly old face had suddenly turned mean. Don't ever touch that again, Mrs. Drizzle ordered. Shari returned, trembling, to her seat. Everyone was staring at Mrs. Drizzle. She smiled sweetly. Go back to what you were doing, she said. Jason threw Bibi his lunchbox. She set it on top of the books, then climbed on top. Standing on her tiptoes, she was able to pull the cover off the fluorescent light. She grabbed the light just as the pile collapsed beneath her. She fell to the ground, triumphantly holding the unbroken light bulb high above her head. Ron returned with a sack of potatoes from Miss Mush. Stephen returned with Mr. Kidswatter's coffee pot. Eric Fry unscrewed the pencil sharpener from the wall. Miss Drizzle wrote coffee pot, sack of potatoes, pencil sharpener, and light bulb on the blackboard. We're going to drop all 4 objects out the window at the same time, she said. How many people think the coffee pot will hit the ground first? Is there coffee in it? Asked John. It's about half full, Stephen reported. 8 kids thought the coffee pot would hit the ground first. 16 thought the sack of potatoes would hit the ground first. 3 thought the light bulb would be first. Only Terrence thought the pencil sharpener would hit first. Jason, Jenny, Joe, John, and Joy were the judges. I hate that sentence. Miss Drizzle sent them outside. Stephen held the coffee pot out one window. Bibi held the light bulb out another. Eric Fry held the pencil sharpener out another. Ron held out the sack of potatoes. Everyone else crowded around to watch. With everyone on the same side of the classroom, the school leaned just a little bit, like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. On your mark, get set, let go, said Mrs. Drizzle. The objects fell through the air and smashed against the pavement. A short while later, the judges returned. Their clothes were splattered with coffee. Jenny had bits of potato in her hair. Was the pencil sharpener first? Asked Terrence. It happened so fast, said Joe. They all hit about the same time. But the coffee pot made the coolest explosion, said Jason. I think the light bulb hit the ground last, said John. Well, that's possible, said Mrs. Drizzle. Gravity causes all objects to fall at the same rate, but air slows them down. That's called air resistance, and that's good. Otherwise, raindrops would kill us. Air resistance slows all things down a little bit, but it has a greater effect on very light objects, such as a piece of paper. And of course, the shape of the paper is important too. A crumpled up piece of paper will fall faster than... You're getting boring again, said Mac. Mrs. Drizzle stopped talking. Now we need a new pencil sharpener, said Leslie. Paul licked her ear. All right. We've only been going for like 2 hours. We're about halfway through the book. And this feels like a good stopping point. But also I feel like everyone just got here and is ready for more book. So I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. Do you want to take a short break really, really quick and keep reading and maybe try and finish the book tonight? Or do you want to just end stream here and we'll finish up tomorrow? What do you guys want? If you want to sleep, then you can go rest. Okay. I want to rest, and also, I'm gonna be so real, I really, 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 really have to pee. I'm gonna end stream so I can go do that. I love you guys. Thank you all so much for coming by and hanging out with me. I appreciate every single one of you taking time out of your day to come spend time with me. I love you. I'll see you guys tomorrow to finish the book. I love you. Shut up. Now's your chance to be a big shot. Be a big. Now's your shot. Sleep and pee well. Shut up. I had too much Baja Blast. Okay, bye.